spacey.
Hello and welcome back, my cosmic explorers and celestial detectives, to another episode of Space City X-Files. I'm your host Rick, guiding you through the uncharted territories of our cosmos and the enigmatic phenomena that happen right here on our planet Earth. Now, we're all about examining the inexplicable, scrutinizing the strange, and hunting for the truth that lurks in the shadows of the unknown universe. Today, we'll be soaring through an atmospheric mystery that merges folklore, cryptobiology, and a touch of the prehistoric. Now, some will maybe argue the fact that this is not a cryptid, but if you wanted to name it something, I guess you can call it a mythological creature, okay? Anyways, fasten your cosmic seatbelts, because we're on the trail of a creature said to control the very elements themselves. A monstrous avian entity deeply rooted in the lore of indigenous cultures of North America. We're talking about the legendary Thunderbird. Now, it's often described as an enormous, powerful, awe-inspiring creature. The Thunderbird is a being of thunder, lightning, and rain, a symbol of divine intervention and a protector of the human realm in many cultures. But what if this mythical being is more than just folklore? What if these giant birds are still soaring through the skies, hidden away in unexplored corners of the world? Join me as we delve into the origin of the Thunderbird myth. We're going to explore some bone-chilling sightings, and we're going to probe into the theories that attempt to explain these reports. Alright? Are we dealing with the mere misidentifications, the ancient memories of long extinct species, or could there be a shred of reality in the Thunderbird's existence? Afterwards, we're going to wrap up this case with our own personal observation of what we believe to be the truth behind this mystery. And of course, as always, afterwards, we invite you to let us know what you think. Alright, so hit us up on the emails, hit us up on social media, and let us know what you think. So whether you're a seasoned traveler or just a curious newbie who's just stumbled across our podcast for the first time, prepare yourself for an electrifying journey as we navigate the cloudy mysteries of the Thunderbird on this episode of Space City X-Files. Alright, before we continue with our investigation into this legendary beast, we'd like to take a moment to express our gratitude to all our listeners. At Space City X-Files, we strive to provide the best possible experience by keeping episodes free of commercials and ads. Now, we rely on your support to help us grow and reach more people who share our passion for uncovering the mysteries of the unknown world. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, we kindly request that you take a few minutes to leave us a review on the platform that you're streaming on. Your feedback is invaluable in spreading awareness about the show and attracting those new listeners to us. Additionally, if you would like to make a monetary contribution by any chance to support the program, you can visit our website and click on the Support Us tab. Every donation we receive goes directly towards enhancing the quality of our content. We greatly appreciate your consideration and ongoing support. Your involvement ensures that we can continue to deliver thought-provoking episodes like today's over the mystical Thunderbird. Thank you again for being a part of Space City X-Files, and we look forward to bringing you more captivating content in the near future. This will conclude today's announcements. All right, so first let's hear about the Thunderbird first. What is it? Where does it come from? Its origins and all that good stuff. All right. So to understand the Thunderbird, we need to journey back in time to when the stories and legends of this enigmatic creature first took flight. No pun intended. The Thunderbird isn't just a single tale. No, it's more of a complex tapestry of myths spread across various indigenous cultures. All right, this was more than one. They all had their personal ideas, theories, spiritual aspects behind the Thunderbird. All right, and it's mostly spread out though across North America. All right, so to start off, we're going to start with the people of the Pacific Northwest. All right, now I'm going to say this name real slow, and I hope I get it right. And if I don't, no offense. All right, so it's spelled KWAKWAKA hyphen WAKW. So to me, that sounds like Kwakwawa. All right, and then we have the Haida people, and then we also have the Tlingit people, and among others as well. All right, but all these people, they tell great tales of an enormous bird that dwells high atop the mountains, often shrouded by storm clouds. All right, its eyes flash with lightning, and its wings clap thunder. They be making it clap. All right. And then rain falls whenever it takes flight. So this could be perhaps tied to their crops as well. And we'll hear about that later. But when it rains, when it takes flight, supposedly it's making rain fall over their land too at the same time. Now, the Pacific Northwestern Thunderbird isn't just a weather phenomenon. It's I guess you can say it's a spiritual creature of immense power to these people, okay? This bird is said to be so colossal that it hunts whales. That was one of its prey, swooping down from its lofty heights to snatch up these mammoth creatures from the ocean, straight out of the icy depths, you know? Like, can you even fathom how amazing a sight like that would be in real life? I mean, you watch regular birds swoop down and pick up a fish or something like that, but imagine something the size of a small airplane swooping down from the ocean and picking up a 100-foot whale with its talons. The sheer strength and might it would take for a bird to pick up a whale and carry it off. Now, this is funny. Not funny. This is interesting because during research, I found that there's a lot of places around the world where whale carcasses were found, whole whale carcasses were found. Of course, there are bones when they were discovered, but they were found in areas far away from water, so far inland, and some were even discovered in the mountains. There's a place in the Pacific Northwest, oddly enough, in Washington State, where a whalebone was found to be growing intertwined with a tree that allegedly has been there hundreds of years. It's a real thing. You can look it up online, but it's very interesting. But anyways, the funny thing is that some people say that this is why those things would be there, because they were picked up by the Thunderbird and possibly dropped over land. But continuing on, the Thunderbird is, however, though, more than just a figure of power and terror. All right, it's also a cultural hero and a protector to these great people. All right, now these tribes believe that the Thunderbird, with its divine origin, protects the people from evil spirits. All right, so this is where the spiritual aspect comes into play. And supposedly the Thunderbird is always continuously fighting a battle, fighting off malevolent beings with its fierce thunderstorms. All right, so when the thunderstorm comes from the Thunderbird, he's doing it to protect these people. Continuing on, as we travel towards the central regions, the Sioux and the Winnebago tribes, they offer a slightly different take. Now, for them, the Thunderbird is more of a spiritual entity, one that embodies the energy of the upper world. All right. Now, with these tribes, there's an upper and a lower world. The upper world, spiritual world, of course, would be tied to the good, and the lower world would be tied to the negative. Now, their mythological landscape is a constant cosmic battlefield where the Thunderbird, the symbol of good, is in a perpetual clash with water spirits or serpents, representing the forces of chaos and disorder. All right, and based off some of the pictures that I've seen from these depictions of these people, I mean, if I had to pick a protector and it looked similar to what these people have depicted in their drawings, I mean, the Thunderbird would definitely be in my top 5 of somebody who I would want on my side, because this creature just looks fierce. And I'm going to post some pictures up in the show notes also, so you can take a look at them. But I mean, just Google search Thunderbird, ancient Thunderbird depictions, and you're going to see, I mean, man, it's an incredible creature. All right, so moving eastward, among the Algonquin people, the Thunderbird is the controller of the elements. It's a force that brings life-giving rains and the guardian against evil spirits. All right, so here we go with the spiritual aspect. Now, the Thunderbird is more than just a myth. It's a symbol deeply interwoven with the daily lives and spiritual practices. All right, so this one here is more intertwined in their daily life. All right, so the Algonquin, along with the Kwakawa people, have beautiful depictions of the Thunderbird illustrated into their totem poles. This is what I was telling you about earlier. All right, so if you don't know what a totem pole, it's basically, I mean, it can be 15 to 20 feet, and every so many feet there's a picture of something important to this tribe carved into it. All right. And so for the Algonquin and the Kakwa people, so you would see basically the Thunderbird depicted either at top or on the very bottom, just depending on how it relates to their people. For the Algonquin, it was pictured at the top because it's very important to them. It's basically like the pillar of their existence, and on their totem, it says here, a proud people protected by a mighty warrior. And above that would be the carving of the Thunderbird. So that's kind of awe-inspiring. And then there's the Ho-Chunk Nation. All right, previously known as the Winnebago tribe from the Wisconsin area. Now, their Thunderbird is a normal creature that battles the forces of evil. And one of the forces of evil that it battles is a horned serpent, much like the narratives of the Algonquin tribes. All right. And so the different narratives all have common themes. And this reveals shared values and fears. The Thunderbird, however, though, is usually always a force of nature, a good protector, a good spiritual entity that battles evil. It demonstrates the struggle between order and chaos, good and bad, the cycle of life and death, and the eternal battle between good and evil. And that kind of fits in with philosophy of times even older than that, where some would say that everything has a polar opposite in this world. All right, so you have good times, bad times. All right, if you didn't have bad times, you wouldn't know what good times were. If you didn't have crappy days of bad weather, you wouldn't appreciate good, beautiful, sunny days of good weather. If you didn't get sick every now and then, you wouldn't appreciate good health. So there's a polar opposite to everything. Some would say it's polarity. If you look at it from an electrical standpoint, there's positive and there's negative. And so this fits into that really well. But one of the question remains that I find myself asking is why a bird? Why not a dragon? You know, why not like a three-headed lion beast or something like that? Why not a mammoth beast or a ferocious predator? Well, it just kind of strikes me odd that why would it be a bird? And then I got to thinking and I thought, well, what do birds do? They have the ability to fly. And if you can fly, basically you can soar above everything. Everything in this world, in fact. And to me, that makes a pretty good symbol representation for something of divine importance, right? Sitting up, perched over, looking over the land, flying through the air, going places where nobody else could go. Or perhaps it's because birds, like also the forces of nature, are beyond the control of humans, adding to the mystery and grandeur of the Thunderbird myth. Now, the origins of the Thunderbird myth remind us of how ancient cultures sought to understand the world around them. All right. These myths represent an attempt to explain natural phenomena. They fought to establish a moral code for their people, and above all, it's a tale of fascinating stories that even until now, I mean, it stood the test of time because here we are all these years still talking about it, you know. So, from a creature of folklore and spiritual practices, the Thunderbird makes a surprising leap into the modern times. Now, up next, what we're going to do is we're going to explore the strange and spine-tingling sightings reported throughout history, modern-day history, that make us wonder, could the Thunderbird be more than just a myth? All right, so let's leave the realm of myth and legend behind as we venture into a world where the lines between reality and imagination blur. Now, the world of Thunderbird sightings is an interesting one. And while we can most definitely chalk it off to ancient legends or to cultural metaphors or even the human knack for storytelling, these modern sightings of this gigantic bird are a little harder to dismiss, if you ask me. All right. So one of the earliest modern day reported sightings dates back to the early 1890 in the town of Tombstone, Arizona. That's right, Tombstone, the OK Corral, where all that stuff went down. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, all that good stuff. Excellent movie too, by the way. If you haven't seen it, I mean, man, I don't know. You must be living under a rock. Go check it out because it's definitely worth the watch. There was a newspaper in Arizona, in Tombstone, called the Epitaph. All right, this was their local paper, and strangely, it published an article describing a massive bird-like creature that got shot down by two local ranchers. All right, The bird supposedly had a wingspan of a whopping 20 feet and a body that was covered in featherless, smooth skin. And from description, the skin would be more likened to a bat than a bird. All right. Anyways, it was clearly something that was not seen ever around those parts. All right, it scared people pretty good. And what truly spooked the folks was the creature's monstrous alligator-like face, a description far removed from the majestic bird of indigenous lore. Sadly, though, the tombstone sightings evidence a sole photograph of the ranchers and their hands positioned in front of the creature. There was a picture snapped of them. Unfortunately, this picture mysteriously disappeared after a fire, and it was just never found. All right, so this forever casted a shadow over the doubt of this encounter. And of course, I'm going to post the link in the show notes where you can go to the old articles. It's there. I'm not making this up. Go check it out for yourself. But I don't know. This kind of makes me scratch my head. I mean, what was it? I mean, this was obviously something that freaked everybody out. This was something special. They knew it was special. They took a picture of it with everybody, and they had evidence. And I don't know. It's just like, was it just a stroke of bad luck that the sole evidence disappeared, or was it something more, I don't know, nefarious going on? Did somebody set the fire and take the picture? I don't know. I guess you can make up all kinds of scenarios of why it disappeared, or maybe it wasn't never there. I don't know, but it's hard to tell. Around this time in that town, the mining boom had just died, and people were moving on. They were moving further west, and by that time, poor old Tombstone was just a shell of its former self, really. So, in my opinion, it's more likely that there was just nobody there to care for the records, and the fire probably destroyed it. Anyhow, moving fast forward to 1948. Now we're in Illinois, and a man named Robert Starles had an eerie encounter of his own. So Starles is relaxing outside of his house. He's having a drink, just, soaking up the scenery, checking it, looking up at the sky, looking around, whatever they did back in 1948, listening to the radio or something. He was relaxing outside when he spotted what he initially thought was a passing plane. So he's like, whatever, it's just a plane, no big deal. But as the figure got closer and closer and closer, Starles was shocked to see that it was no plane. It was a big-ass bird flying overhead, right? With the wingspan of like 20 feet, matching the description of the tombstone bird. And in this case right here, and of course this is going to be all in the show notes so you can look for yourself. In this case right here, Starles wasn't alone in his sightings. No. During this same time, several residents of the Alton, Illinois area reported witnessing an enormous bird. What was even more chilling is that there's other articles where people were given interviews about how this creature tried to snatch up their pets. One lady, whose story picked up a lot of attention, said that the creature tried to carry away her small child, her toddler. All right, and so the sightings continued to pop up throughout the 20th and the early 21st century, particularly in the Midwest, which is interesting. Pennsylvania's rural areas also became a hotbed for Thunderbird sightings in the 1960s, with accounts describing it as a bird of enormous size with a wingspan of 20 feet again. This one was definitely invoking images of the prehistoric creatures that were long thought to be extinct. Sightings weren't just confined to the U.S., though. No, in the early 2000s, reports came in from a small village in Alaska Um, the villagers claimed that they saw a bird as large as a small airplane flying overhead, causing a huge commotion among locals and sparking fresh debates of the existence of the Thunderbird. And with so many sightings spanning different regions and eras, we're left in a strange spot right now. All right, so are all these witnesses misidentifying common birds? Is it all just a misidentification? I mean, we face this same issue in ufology with the UFOs and the UAPs. This is a very common question. If you're familiar with it, then you know that one of the main things people say was, well, was it misidentified? Was it a weather balloon? Was it a solar flare? Was it a military testing their flares? Testing new military experimental crafts? I mean, on and on and on with you know multiple ideas that could make one possibly believe that they saw something else than what they actually seen. So is that the case here? Or is there something more to these stories? Something that connects us to the ancient myths of our North American ancestors, And it's possible that we may be dealing with the phenomenon that is as much about cultural memory and human perception as it is about the unknown creatures that are still yet discovered, right? Or thought to be extinct, at least. Next, we'll dive into the theories swirling around these sightings, from misidentifications and hoaxes to lost species and interdimensional travelers. The Thunderbird continues to captivate our collective imagination. Coming up next. All right, so we've traced the Thunderbird's path from the ancient legends of indigenous tribes to modern day, hearing about some eyewitness accounts that sparked some interest about these giant birds that were being witnessed. And now it's time to flutter into the realm of speculation and hypothesis, all right? So what could be the explanation behind these Thunderbird sightings? And the first and perhaps most plausible theory suggests, of course, misidentification. Here we go. All right, so it's not unusual for our eyes to play tricks on us, especially if we catch a fleeting glimpse of something. The natural world has an array of large bird species like the eagles or the condors or storks. They're all very large birds, which could possibly be mistaken for the legendary Thunderbird, especially if seen from a distance or in less ideal light, or weather conditions were bad, maybe overcast, or maybe lightning, maybe the lightning and thunder, or it could possibly be you've already been primed to believe that such a creature exists. Perhaps it was passed down culturally, which one could make an argument that you would be more inclined to believe that it was this bird instead of just a large, ordinary bird that some people see regularly. But even known large birds can take on supernatural dimensions in our minds, and this could possibly, as I was saying, be linked back to tales and folklore. It's very common knowledge that the power of suggestion can warp perception, right? Let's look at the next one. The second theory takes a leap into the prehistoric, suggesting that the Thunderbird could be a case of a living fossil. Now, these living fossils are species believed to be extinct, but are thought to still be managing to survive in remote or unexplored regions of the world. Specifically, these theories suggest that the Thunderbird could be the teratorns, which are like enormous predatory birds that once shared the earth with early men. The most famous of these was the Argentavis magnificens, Now, these were the largest flying bird ever discovered, which lived 6 million years ago, allegedly, with a wingspan up to 20 feet. This bird is a huge likely candidate for the real-life Thunderbird. And so you have to ask the question, could pockets of these massive birds have survived the ages, occasionally surfacing to eat or startle us or bewilder us, what have you? Moving on to the next theory. So the third theory veers into the realm of the supernatural. In this one here, we're embracing the spiritual significance of the Thunderbird that has been passed down and created in many indigenous cultures. All right, could these Thunderbird sightings be spiritual experiences, moments where the physical and spiritual realms intertwine? These encounters could represent messages or perhaps interventions from the spirit world, helping people connect with the past, understand the present, or even shape the future. Now, in this interpretation, the Thunderbird is less a physical creature and more of a spiritual entity, of course. All right, and lastly, for our listeners who dare to think outside the box and dare to be put under scrutiny by those that live by the book, we have the interdimensional hypothesis. Now, before you roll your eyes, hear me out. And I know some would say, are already thinking in their head that the interdimensional hypothesis is a cop-out. Like every time you have something that you can't prove, oh, it's interdimensional, that's why you can't see it and it can only see you. Well, yeah, there's no proof there. You can't prove it, but also you can't disprove it. And quantum physics can maybe shed some light that there are cases where there can be different realms, if you will, or different I can't think of the word right now, but different timelines, basically, the multiverse theory. And then you also have to realize that our eyes can only see our eyes are only tuned to a certain number of they can only pick up a certain range of visualization, right? Our ears can only hear certain frequencies. Our brains can only make sense of only so much. And most of what we can see in this world fall between that parameter. It is real knowledge, it's a fact that there are things outside of that we can't see. Okay? Our eyes cannot, they just can't see it. And our brains can't interpret it, alright? So what's to say that they're not living there? So, with that being said, could these Thunderbirds be visitors from another dimension? Slipping through cracks in our reality, existing beyond the veil of our human perception? I don't know. That's for you to decide. Moving on to the last theory, this one taps into the broader field of high strangeness, where UFO sightings, cryptic encounters, and the other paranormal phenomenon are viewed as also interdimensional events. Now, there was once a time when certain theories like these could be easily dismissed. But you gotta admit, though, with the current revelations in regard to extraterrestrial life, what's going on in Congress with the David Grush information, with the alien bodies that were brought up in the Mexico Congress hearing, UAP reports, just the numerous amount of whistleblowers that we got coming up. It's a very interesting time that we're living in, and to me, in my opinion, the fact that we are not alone is becoming ever more realistic. So, there we have it. Here are the theories, and they are as varied and as intriguing as the Thunderbird itself. From misidentification to prehistoric survivors, spiritual experiences to interdimensional visitors, the truth behind these sightings remain elusive. Perhaps one day soon we'll have our answers. For now, though, we've come to the part of the show where we divulge what we believe to be the facts in this case. Now, I'm not saying you have to agree with me or even that I'm right. Alright, this is simply my opinion. And so, in the case of the legendary Thunderbird, I'm going to say that the sightings in this case were genuine. I believe it. And that somewhere out there, this fascinating beast is still taking flight somewhere up in the heavens. Now, before you roll your eyes, give me a bit to explain why I feel this way. In this case, much like the Bigfoot case or the Honey Island Swamp Monster case, if you listen to that last season's episode, the history of this animal is well documented in the culture of Native Americans. Okay, Bigfoot is also, damn it, I'm drawing a blank on its name. The Honey Island Swamp Monster is also, it's not Bigfoot, it's another version of Bigfoot. They have a bunch of different names for them. The Rougarou, Skunkied, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Anyways, there's a bunch of different names, and they're all documented in Native American culture also. And if you want to know more about that one, go back to last season and listen to Honey Island Swamp Monster. And there was a very intelligent person that did a paper on the Honey Island Swamp Monster, and they did a tremendous deep dive on the history of this animal or this cryptid being identified in Indian Native American culture. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely go check that one out. You're not gonna want to miss that one. And I also put the link of that paper in the show notes on that episode, which is a very, very excellent read. And so anyways, back to the point that both of these creatures were well documented in Native American culture. And so these people, this culture, were here and were around way long before we ever showed up. In times long ago, far removed from the world that we are living in today. And I believe that these cryptids or fabled creatures, like we've been talking about in this episode, possibly felt more comfortable revealing themselves in those times, and so they did it more often. And that's what I feel. And that would partially explain the frequent sightings spread out over the years. All right, and the reason why it tapered down is because it's no secret that in the 19th and 20th century, the United States forced many of the Native American tribes to move from their area, from their homes, or either assimilate into the changing times. And this could possibly be a reason too that the Thunderbird appearances slowly started to taper away, and they slipped into the background, becoming less visible. For me, the fact that pictures were documented back as early as the 1600s, giant birds were known to have existed at some point in the timeline where man was already walking the face of the earth. This leads me to believe that the Thunderbird is real and is still around. Now, maybe the whole thunder and lightning attributes that are attributed to it could possibly just be metaphors or exaggerations. But as for the giant bird itself, it's a very real possibility that people saw what they saw, and I believe they did. So before we wrap it up, I will say too that I also do subscribe to the theory that these creatures have the ability to pass between interdimensional realms. All right, I subscribe to that. If you do, hey, you know what's up, right? Meaning while they're here, they can interact with us, they can do whatever they want to do, they can be seen, and they could even leave behind evidence, which is also why you get like footprints of Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden they'll disappear into nowhere. Like he disappeared into nowhere. Well, in this theory, he doesn't disappear into nowhere. It's because he goes back to his other realm. But when they leave, like I just mentioned, it's like they disappear completely. All right. There's also another theory about them living in the center of the earth, but that's a whole different topic and show. So to me, this one here makes the most sense, and this is what I choose to believe. And like I said, this is just my opinion. If you would like to share what you think after listening to this episode, feel free to reach out on social media or by email. And I'd love to hear what you think about Thunderbird or Bigfoot or any cryptid in general, whatever you want to talk about. And if you enjoyed this episode, I kindly ask that you take a few minutes after the conclusion of the show just to leave us a short review, and of course a thumbs up on whatever platform you stream from. As I mentioned before, show in, show out. You people, you friends, you dear people are the fuel to our fire, and your feedback helps us break through that glass ceiling. All right. And that allows us to share our message with truth seekers all over the world. It allows us to get in front of bigger crowds. And, whenever you're dealing with social media and you're trying to get, shares or become more visible, there's always an algorithm to all these sites. And these algorithms are basically telling you they've decided what's a good show and what's not, based off of just how many clicks the person has got. And that's cool. I'm happy for those people that are getting them, but there's also very, very good talents out there that are being overlooked. And I feel like it's kind of unfair at times because they get little love, so it's very important that those supporting them leave those reviews, leave those 5 stars, leave those likes, because that's what's gonna make people understand, okay, these people are good because they got good reviews, they got interesting topics, they interact with their people, they're on these sites talking and sharing ideas and sharing constructive criticism, and I welcome all that. I don't turn down people telling me what I can do better. I appreciate that because that's what I want to do. I want to get better. This is what I love, this is my passion, and I'm just happy I have the chance to share it with you. So if you could do that for me, I would surely greatly appreciate it. And on that note, now I'll get off my soapbox. On that note, that will conclude this episode. There's nothing further to see here, but I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week for another thought-provoking episode, and we hope you'll join us again for sure. Until we meet again, this is Rick with the Space City X-Files. On behalf of the Space City X-Files, signing off. Keep questioning, keep listening, and keep exploring.
Thank you for listening to Space City X-Files. Goodbye.